What is up? It's me, Mr. Carter. I'm back at you. And at this point, you're back from spring break. I hope you had a great time. And if you traveled, I hope you traveled safe. I hope you had a good time. I hope that everything was good. I look forward to hearing about how your break was. Everything is good over here. We're just changing diapers, picking up, spit up, the whole 9 yards. But no, it's actually great. Baby's good, wife is good, life is good. So I'm hanging in there. Thank you guys for your emails and messages and stuff. It's really sweet. I look forward to seeing you guys again. But for right now, we're back at it. Same formula as before. You should be working on those week 2 assignments. Have those done for when I get back. I'll be back next Monday. So obviously not this Monday because that's today when you're watching it. But it'll be the Monday after that. So we will pick up with the normal scheduled program there. But I hope these videos have been okay. I hope you've been enjoying them. Make sure to, read those thumbnails. I'm leaving little breadcrumbs of stuff there for you. Just, I'm having a lot of fun. So, all right. Let's do a quick refresher, all right? Because I know it's been a minute. You guys are probably a little bit rusty. Now, we were talking about the 1950s. Let's run through some things that were going on in the 1950s. Number one, it's the beginning of the Cold War. Remember that a Cold War is a war that is not fought with weapons, right? It's not literally people shooting at each other. It is a war of ideas. It's a war fought through policy. Yes, there are people that are going to die in the Cold War, but there are wars that are inside of the Cold War. Think like the Vietnam War, the Korean War, things like that. They're not... The Cold War itself doesn't have any battles. There's smaller things that are in the context of the Cold War. And remember that the Cold War is from really 1945. I mean, that's really kind of when it begins, to the 90s, early 90s, like 1993, I think. So, lasts a very, very long time, okay? Remember that this is between the United States and the Soviet Union, but on a larger scale, it's between capitalism and communism. What is the world going to be? Both of these nations became economic superpowers after World War II, and now there's kind of this question of like, okay, well, who's really in control? Who's going to control, world culture? Is it going to be the Russians or the Americans? And I mean, obviously, both want it. America believes that they have to. In order to save the world, America has to be the one that controls this, for better or for worse. Okay, we talked about that. We talked about 1950s culture in America, how that's really going to influence the world. This idea of like good old-fashioned values and kind of, it's masked as being very traditional American, but it's very close-minded, right? Everything that is different is scary and dangerous and has to be contained, which is very much how the communists also viewed things that they, thought were dangerous. It's the same thing. Both sides are kind of behaving in the same way. Okay, we talked about this idea of containment, that America is going to act like communism is a disease. So anytime that a nation is becoming communist, they're going to try to, first and foremost, save that nation, right? Stop it from becoming communist. But if they can't, they're going to turn all the nations around it capitalist to literally like quarantine it, okay? That's why we get into wars like Korea and Vietnam. Nations that we really didn't care about before now become very important in the context of the Cold War. Okay, so hopefully that is ringing a bell, right? Hopefully it's coming back to you. And again, once I come back, we'll kind of go back over this because, hopefully this is working. We're trying our best here. So, yeah, we'll go back over it. So if you're missing stuff, don't worry. I will explain it all again. All right. So we ended week before talking about John F. Kennedy versus Richard Nixon. Remember that Kennedy wins the 1960 election. This marks a real turn in U.S. politics because he is the first president that is elected really using the power of television, right? Before this, it was the radio. All you had to go on was the president's voice and what he actually says, but now it's different. Presidents now become characters. Who's the most compelling character? I mean, look at what we have now, right? Our president very much is a character, whether you love him or hate him. He plays a character. I doubt that that's actually how he is. Every president since JFK is like that. Maybe not as cartoonish and bombastic as Trump is, but JFK himself was also a character, right? He's like the good old boy. He's a World War II veteran. He's got like this beautiful, idyllic family. But, you know, like I said, that's a character. That's not really how it was. He's a man that had a lot of demons. He had a lot of flaws. But remember, he becomes president in 1960. Really, 1950 to about 1963 were like, that's like the golden age, right? The early 60s are very much like the 50s. The same kinds of things are popular. It's no coincidence that right after JFK is assassinated, everything shifts. Everything changes. Because the world witnesses basically the leader of the free world get killed. I mean, they watch it happen. And he represents something. You know, he's like that World War II veteran generation, and he's killed for seemingly no reason. And people are like, well, why did he die? Why did they shoot him? Who shot him? And they're like, well, it's just this guy that didn't like him. And they're like, there's got to be more to it. The government doesn't answer the questions, and obviously now we get the conspiracy theory. We are not going to cover that until I get there, because I want to be in person talking about the conspiracy theory, which we will talk about in detail. I will even bring a little tinfoil so you can make a tinfoil hat. Do you guys know the meme or joke about conspiracy theorists and tinfoil hats? They used to wear, there's some people that wear tinfoil on their head to keep the government from reading their mind. So, you know, look, we gotta wear the tinfoil hats. The government could be trying to read our brain. So I will bring in tinfoil, and you can make a little hat. One guy one year made a hat that had a little spinny propeller on it. He's an inventor. What can I say? All right. Today, we're not talking about JFK. We're going to take a break. We're talking about Cuba, right? Fidel Castro. Remember Bomb Cat? Sorry, I know some of you, that's a sore topic for some of you, but this is that era. All right, we're going to talk about Fidel. Who is Fidel? Why is America so invested in Cuba? Because it leads into one of the most tumultuous times in really modern history, which is the Cuban Missile Crisis, where the world literally was on the brink of destruction. People went to bed one night believing that they were going to just get blown up. And then they woke up and everyone was alive. And it was like a miracle. All right, so let's get into it. So I want you to put in your notes, we're still in the 1960s. I want you to put down as a title, Cuba Goes Communist. All right, well, first of all, we live in Florida. There's lots of Cuban influence. Some of you guys might even be of Cuban heritage, might have some Cuban family members. Cuba and the United States have always had a really weird relationship. The U.S. has really always wanted to take over Cuba in the same way that we've always wanted to take over Canada, and we still do, all right? We might not say it, but there are many politicians that'd be very happy if we took that. We just kind of feel like it's ours. It's close enough. It's basically touching Florida. It's ours. Some Cubans would say, yeah, that'd be great. And some Cubans are like, no, we don't want that. As you know, Cuba is still not in great shape. Living there is definitely a hardship. They are still behind economically and in terms of like technology. I mean, they have things like internet and things like that, but I mean, you may have seen like the old cars and things. They're still kind of catching up, okay? So we're going to talk about why that is. Okay. First of all, we got to talk about what was Cuba before Fidel Castro. So I want you to write down, in the 50s, all right, in the 50s, Cuba was under a fascist regime. Right? In the 50s, Cuba was under a fascist regime. And you might be like, man, that's bad. And it is bad. But America doesn't do anything to stop it. Well, that's weird. We don't like fascists, do we? No. but we can tolerate them if they like us. Okay? If they're letting us trade, if they're kind of letting us operate how we want, we'll let them slide, okay? Look, it's not that America's cool with fascists. It's just that sometimes we use bad people for what we think are good reasons. That doesn't always work out. That definitely bites us in the rear end many, many, many times. And you will, by the way, I mean, if you're paying attention right now, you will notice that the same thing, we do this exact same thing over and over again. We support bad people because we think that they'll do what we want, and then they don't, and we're like, why didn't you do that? And it's like, well, because they're evil. It's not rocket science, but we make the same mistake over and over again. Anyway, we support this fascist dictator. All right, well, obviously, the people of Cuba don't like it. They don't like living under this dictator. And because the United States is supporting this fascist dictator, by proxy, who else do they not like? They don't like the United States. All right, so I want you to write down young revolutionary Fidel Castro overthrows fascist dictator. Young revolutionary Fidel Castro overthrows fascist dictator. All right, so who is Fidel? He's a young man at this point. He's a college student. He's an intellectual, but he's also, I mean, I don't know how else to put it. He's also a dictator, but he's like better. I don't know. It's like more tolerable. Really, the people of Cuba suffer greatly because they swap one dictator for another one, and he's bad, but he's not as bad. America's not cool with this because we're like, hey, Fidel, you're now in charge. We don't really like that, but are you cool with, like, if we're friends, you want to become capitalist? And he's like, nah, we're communists, bro. We're communists all the way. Does America like that? No. Because remember, what is our policy? If a country goes communist, what do? We try to contain it. Think about where Cuba is. How do you contain that? You're the container. America is the container. We basically have a communist nation in our backyard. We can't have any communists on the Western Hemisphere. We're not about it. Well, now it's like, what do? Okay. Well, the Soviets are all about this, so I want you to write down. Soviets quickly support Fidel Castro. All right. We're like, Fidel, don't listen to them. They suck. You want to be with us? We're actually cool. And he's like, I don't trust y'all. Y'all supported the last guy, and he was trash. I'm going to go with them. And America's like, oh no. What do? We've got this guy in our backyard. What if he gets nuclear weapons? He doesn't yet, but he's going to try to. Imagine how bad that would be if the Soviets put nuclear weapons in Cuba. They could hit, like, the entire East Coast, right? It'd be terrible. So this is red alert for America. All right, John F. Kennedy's president. He tries to communicate with Fidel, but him and Fidel are very different, okay? Fidel's a revolutionary and definitely a diehard communist. JFK is the type of president that will call you on the phone and try to talk to you man to man. It's not really working. Now, remember, when we talked about Bombcat and all that insane stuff, there is a division of, the government, the CIA. At this point, the CIA has almost no oversight. They're kind of just there. And they're allowed to do things for the sake of national security. America is treating, the Cold War as if it's a real war. And so they're going to allow people to do things, which, might be kind of messed up, but it's a war, so you got to win. All right, JFK and the CIA, they're not pals. They don't like each other. JFK basically is like, all right, well, who are these people? A Central Intelligence Agency. What do they do? And his team is like, they gather intelligence. He's like, well, what does that mean? Like, they spy on people, they can kill people if you want. He's like, well, can you get more specific? Like, can I tell them to do something? They're like, well, yeah, but like they kind of operate on their own. He's like, no, 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 no. Not under my watch. He's like, you don't get to just do what you want. I'm the president. I'm the president. I was elected. These people weren't elected. So he immediately kind of starts questioning them. What is your real purpose? What do you do? I'm not trying to get very conspiracy minded here, but I want you to start thinking about something. There is a reason why most people believe that John F. Kennedy was killed by the Central Intelligence Agency. The cover-up smells so bad of a CIA cover-up. They would have a lot of motivation to kill him. He basically chops their funding, makes everybody kind of question their legitimacy. They're not friends. All right. Well, the immediate problem at hand is, what do you do with Fidel Castro? They're afraid that, they've got this communist in charge. They could try to depose him. They could try to have another revolution. But the people seem to actually like Fidel, so that's going to be difficult. So the CIA propose an operation, and they say, well, Mr. President, we could always just, go in there and take him out. And he's like, okay, well, how do you propose to do that? Like, well, we could invade Cuba, but make it look like another country is invading them. JFK is like, I'm not following. I'm not really sure I get it. I'm like, just trust us, Mr. President. Just trust us. He's like, okay. He's like, I guess. He's like, is this going to be U.S. personnel that are landing on the ground? He goes, no. CIA says, no, these are not going to be U.S. citizens. We're not dropping soldiers in. They're going to be secret operatives. We've done this many, many times. So JFK hesitantly is like, okay, I guess we can try it. All right. So I'm going to leave you on this cliffhanger, and we'll talk about it tomorrow. The mission that is about to take place is one of the dumbest missions ever. I can really say that. It's idiotic, frankly. It would have never worked. This mission consists of taking Cuban refugees, training them to be assassins and spies, and then dropping them out of an airplane into the Cuban jungle so they can hunt down Fidel Castro and kill him. It doesn't work. I can go ahead and tell you that. It did not work. But it is a pretty crazy story. By the way, make a fantastic movie. I say that a lot. It'd make a great comedy, like a dark comedy. Just follow these Cuban guys who got picked up by the CIA, dropped in the jungle. It'd be hilarious. All right, we're going to stop there. So hopefully this is kind of painting the scenery for you about the U.S. versus Cuba, the CIA conflict kind of brewing in the background. It's really good stuff. It's rich. Okay, I will see you later. I hope you have a fantastic day. Peace and love. Bye-bye.